Hi Tom, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Adam. How are you?
Good, good, good. Yeah, great, thank you. Just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. Really means a lot.
That's a pleasure.
But yeah, so you're the founder of Crisp Company, British Snacks.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I have a company called the British Snack Company, which, as the name suggests, is
Yeah.
a snack company, and we've got three brands. We've got Awfully Posh, which is a brand of meat snacks, predominantly pork crackling and pork scratchings. Then we've got the British Crisp Company, which, as the name suggests, is Chris, and the British Popcorn Company as well. So each of the brands, operates in a slightly different way, but collectively they all work together at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and I think like I saw on your profile that you kind of started by selling pork scratchings out the back of your car.
That's right. Yeah, I started back in 2013, and I sort of spotted a gap in the market really for a premium pork scratching. So I started making them in my mum's kitchen and selling them
Wow.
from the boot of my car to local pubs in Tunbridge and Tunbridge Wells, which is where I lived at the time. It's where I still live, in fact. So I was working full time, and when the dinner bell went, I'd go home, pack up the car, and start going around door knocking local pubs and trying to sell them pork scratchings, basically.
Wow, that's awesome. So like, how old was you when you was doing this?
Well, I'm 30 now, so I was in my early 20s.
Damn. So like, if you always kind of had that kind of entrepreneurial kind of side, was you doing anything else before that, like selling things or anything like that, or you just kind of went straight into that?
Yeah, well, the plan really. I mean, I was supposed to become a lawyer. I started doing a law degree at the London School of Economics, and I only managed about a term before dropping out, and I just decided that I wanted to start a business, and I wanted to start a business in the food world. And I got a job while I was thinking about taking that leap, and I was just looking for ideas really, and the idea came to me, like all good ideas do, in the pub while I was, drinking a pint of beer and eating a bag of pork scratchings. And I thought, well, no one at the time, I mean, there's loads of them now, but at the time, there weren't any premium pork scratchings. No one had done to the pork scratching what kettle chips or Tyrrells did to the crisp, premiumized it basically.
Yeah,
No one had done that. So I thought, why not do it myself? And so, I took over my mum's kitchen, started frying up pork scratchings in there. And, at the time, I was just putting them in little bags with stickers on and, tying up the tops and sending them out to local pubs really. And that's where it started. And initially it grew very, very organically from there. Just supplying, I just had a little route that I would go on, and every day or every evening I'd try and add another couple of pubs on. And it got to the point where eventually I had too many pubs to manage. So,
wow,
that's when I, decided to start taking it seriously, and I quit my job and did it full time.
that's amazing. So like, just through like kind of word of mouth in your local area and just going out and branching out, going to pubs and saying, try this.
Not, yeah, I mean, maybe word of mouth played a little bit, but it was door knocking basically. It was quite, I just walk into pubs, and because I was doing it in the evening, it was the worst possible time, because pubs are busy in the evening. It's the worst
Yeah.
possible time to be bothering a landlord about, some nutter trying to sell him pork scratching. So, the way that I did it initially was I gave them to the pubs for free, like on a sale or return basis. So I said, look, here's 50 bags. I'll come back next week, and if you've sold them, you can pay me for them. But if you haven't sold them, then, don't worry about it. I'll take them away, and, I'll never darken your door again.
Yeah.
So, that seemed to work. We don't do it anymore, obviously, but, initially that seemed to work.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think like with that, you kind of have to be consistent, don't you? And you kind of like have to, if you deal with, loss and rejection, you just have to kind of keep on going because it's something that, you believe in it. You have that passion for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of rejection. A lot of people are just plain rude. you know. But you know, they're busy people, so you sort of understand. But a lot of people, you know, just tell you to get out. So
Yeah,
you have to be thick-skinned.
yeah. Would you say like this kind of like COVID situation, like you kind of had to adapt in any way, like because of like pubs being closed and things like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, our business has diversified since then. We now supply national supermarkets like Waitrose and Ocado, Tesco, and we export all over the world as well. But you know, still, you know, a big core of our business is what we call out of home,
Mm.
which is, you know, pubs, not just pubs, but coffee shops, restaurants, you know, things like that, out of home, you know, where you're eating outside your home. And so we, you know, COVID was very tough for us. But, you know, we didn't lose 100% of our business because we, you know, we still supplied supermarkets. But in terms of how we pivoted or reacted to COVID, we actually decided to launch our own shop so that we could supply direct to consumer, which is working well. And we you know, Amazon is a good tool as well for getting direct to consumer. So you know, direct to consumer grew, you know, during lockdown grew from, you know, probably less than 1% of our business to, you know, 30%.
Yeah. Oh wow, it's a big increase, isn't it?
It is, yeah, yeah. And you know, pubs are starting to open up again now, coffee shops, you know, hospitality is starting to open up. But you know, we hope that we can keep that direct to consumer channel open, because you know, it's a nice channel to have. You're dealing direct with the customer. You haven't got to go through a middleman. You know, so if we can keep that direct to consumer side of our business going, and still get back all of the hospitality trade that we lost, then we'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I think it's good that you kind of like adapted and kind of improvised, you know, in the situation, because I think, you know, it's been tough times, especially in hospitality. You know, where I'm based in Cornwall, most of the businesses down here are hospitality.
Yeah, of
Whereas,
course.
you know, now is the time kind of time to make money, so they're trying to, like, you know, make up for that lost income.
Yeah. It's been a really rough ride for hospitality, and you know, even though things are starting to open up, certainly, you know, our experience is that, you know, it's not back to normal yet, and we're probably, you know, a while away from it being back to normal. You know, our trade through pubs is recovering, but you know, slowly.
Yeah.
So we're taking things day by day, and you know, you've got to be careful about how you go about things, because we never know what's around the corner. So yeah, I mean, you know, I really feel, you know, there are certainly businesses out there that have been hit a lot harder than us, you know, businesses like pubs, you know, who have had to shut completely. You know, fortunately we still had channels for us that were open and trading during lockdown. So I really feel for businesses that have been, you know, had to completely lock down, and you know, have seen sales gone from 100% to zero almost overnight. You know, that must be an almost impossible challenge to try and deal with.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, like, you know, if you can, you know, manage throughout this time and push through it, it just kind of probably builds that resilience in some way, because you think to yourself, well, you know, if we can get through this.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, it's I think, you know, lessons will definitely be learned from businesses that survive lockdown. And you know, for us, it's you know, it's really underlined the importance of having a diversified customer base, you know, and not being overly reliant on not just one or two customers, but you know, not just being over reliant on one channel. You know, had lockdown happened 5 years ago, when, you know, before we'd started to supply retailers, you know, we would have, you know, it would have been unlikely that we would have survived, because, you know, back then almost 100% of our business was pubs, and you know, overnight you just lose all that business, and it's not just the loss of trade. You know, it's the other problems that presents. For example, for us, you know, if we've got stock, you know, snacks don't have, you know, there are products with shorter shelf lives, but they don't have, you know, they do have a limited shelf life. So, you know, we were in a position where, you know, we were potentially overstocked, and we had to, you know, had things not recovered, or had we not reacted in the way that we did, we would have been left with not only the loss of sales, but also having to throw away product that we would have otherwise sold, which would have been a double hit. You know, and obviously, you know, other hospitality businesses had that problem. You know, I know people who run pubs, and they were throwing beer down the drain. You know, it's a shame.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, like, there's many I think there's many lessons to be learned from it, isn't there? And you know, ways of kind of, you know, preparing for something, and you know, if it was to happen in the future, probably having that backup plan.
Yeah, I mean, what, we've got investors, and one of the things they always ask, and they always try and drill into me is, are you planning for the worst case scenario? What if this happens? What if this happens? What's your action plan? What's your crisis plan? And the funny thing is, even the most pessimistic person wouldn't really have seen something as bad as this pandemic coming.
Yeah.
So even though you had plans in place for for scenario A and scenario B and scenario C, and what if this happens, what if this happens, it's how can you prepare for a pandemic, really?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely an eye opener, and it's something that's definitely set in stone in history. It's like people will look back on it, in years to come and be like, oh yeah, that thing happened.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be talking about this in decades.
Yeah, but like, like with your pork scratchings, like, did you experiment with ingredients? Like, how did you kind of find and pinpoint like the taste, and did you do any research on it to get like that kind of, when it kind of clicked into place?
Yeah, we did research. Obviously, there's a lot of trial and error as well. What works, what doesn't. But one of the key things for us is not about what we can add; it's about what we can take away. So with our pork snacks, we just use pork and sea salt, nothing else. So and it's the same for our crisps and our popcorn, which are completely allergen and vegan, allergen free and vegan. So one of the things that we're when we do MPD, that we're constantly striving for is not what can we add to make this taste better, is what can we take away and still make it taste great, because veganism is on the rise. Allergens are a big issue, and when it comes to our pork snacks, why do you need anything other than pork and salt? So yes, there was a lot of experimentation, but it was also trying to make the product as pure and natural as possible, and that's what shapes our MPD process.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think like the customer is important, isn't it? Like, like in business, I think a lot of people get it wrong in business because they're so focused on making the profit and benefiting in that way. You have to have that good relationship with the customer, and probably do a lot of feedback probably as well, like market research and things like that, especially with, food, to see what people think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone has different tastes and likes and dislikes, but some things work, some things don't. We've introduced products that we thought would work, and that we thought were great, but then you release them, and the customer, some people will agree and some people don't, and there are hundreds of really great products that have launched and not worked. And you can do all the market research in the world, but sometimes look at these big companies like the big multinational food and drink companies. They spend millions of dollars or pounds on R&D, and sometimes their products still fail. So you can do doing research and customer paneling and getting customer feedback important, but you never really know whether a product's going to work until you launch it, until it gets out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point. And I think like you just kind of have to go through the motions, don't you? I suppose you just have to just do it. And I think like is there any like fears that you had when you was doing it? Like, is there any like things that kind of held you back? Things that you had to kind of like push through?
I mean, a lot of things. And we still go through them. There are constantly new challenges, even as a business grows and gets bigger. There aren't fewer challenges, there are just different challenges. As and one of the things that a lot of food and drink businesses struggle with is growing pains. The bigger you get, you need more staff, you need to order more stock. Your costs go up, and that presents cash flow challenges. So it's on the face of it, starting a food and drink business seems like a really easy thing because everyone loves food and drink, right? So it seems like the most natural thing in the world. If I start a company and it has great tasting products, then how's it not going to work? Because everyone loves great tasting products. But it's a really tough industry. and it's a lot of hard work. And even now, we're experiencing challenges, different challenges to the ones we experienced 7 years ago, for sure. But it's it doesn't get any easier.
No, but like I find like that's what I talk about a lot is like people finding their passion and doing something that they love and just trying. And I mean, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I'm not good at this," and I'm like, "But how many times have you tried it?" And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like with what you do, you're passionate about what you do, and I think that's so important. Like what would you say to people if they want to start a business but they're afraid, or they they don't know where to start, or they might not believe in themselves?
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I guess I'd say the question I'd ask them is, will you regret not doing this 5 years down, 5 years time? Would you look back and think, oh, what if I'd done it? You can always, it's very tempting to sort of, chuck in the day job and start doing something. But, that's not the way that I did it. I sort of dipped my toe in the water first. I was still working, and I was doing this in my evenings. Not everyone's going to be able to do that, in different categories or industries, or even with different products. But, I made sure that the product worked and the product was right before I decided to ditch the day job.
Yeah, no, so like you can like work alongside what you're doing, and then do that thing you're working on the side, and just build it. And then when it's a good point to do.
It's all about de-risking, right? And trying to, as much, everyone, it's good to be passionate about what you do, but you shouldn't let that passion for a product or for an idea cloud your judgment. And I just advise everyone to to try and de-risk as much as possible, because it's a tough market out there.
Yeah. Do you have any like role models at all? Any who your role models for, like, looking up to, whether that's professionally or personally?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of an answer that isn't a cliche here.
That's all right.
I mean, certainly when I started, or a couple of years before I started, innocent smoothies, where everyone was talking about innocent smoothies and what a brilliant job they did. I certainly looked to them, and I think I remember, one of our early investor pitches trying to market us as the innocent smoothies of the pork snack world. So I guess we sort of tried to follow in their footsteps somewhat, even though the products are very different. But there are loads of great products out there that I admire. In our industry, for example, that Tills Chris did a great job. And one more recently that I really admire is Piper's Crisps.
Piper's,
yeah, they're one of our direct competitors, obviously, but I think they did a great job building a business that focused on one channel, the out of home channel. So they didn't supply supermarkets. I mean, they do supply supermarkets now, which is a shame in many ways. But there are lots of I'd say in my mind I have less when it comes to role models. I look less to individuals and more to brands and companies.
Yeah. So there's a wasp. It's gone now. Yeah, Tills is a good example, and I'm based in Cornwall. There's some nice, Cornish crisps. I think, is it Tills or Devon? Is it Devon Tills? I think.
The Herefordshire.
Herefordshire. Okay, that's a bit of a far away. But there's some down here which are like
Burt's.
Burt's. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, Burt's. They're nice.
They're good crisps.
Like, do you kind of have to keep on? What's that word? Almost like reinventing yourself, trying to find new flavors. Like, how do you go about that?
Well, we're about to launch a new flavor, actually. But the thing with flavors, Chris, I find, is that we've tried lots of flavors over the years, but it's salt and vinegar, cheese and onion, and sea salt are always the ones that sell best, because crisps are so ingrained in the nation's snacking habits that I think it's going to be hard to break those three, the core three. So and the risk with new flavors, right, when you're developing new flavors, is it's got to be incremental. It's got to provide incremental growth, because there's a danger that if you launch a new flavor which is all very well, that it just cannibalizes sales of the existing flavors. Is launching a new flavor going to make people buy more crisps, or is it just going to make people, buy a different flavor of crisps? So, there are companies out there, Tyrrell's is an example, that have probably triple, three or four times as many flavors as we have, which, clearly works for them in some ways. But, we like to run a lean business, and for us that means keeping our flavor range quite narrow.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, because I think, like you say, salt and vinegar, cheese and onion, and like very salted, like those kind of like flagship flavors. And if I'm in the supermarket and I don't really like the other ones, I'll always go for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to touch those top three. I mean, my personal favorite is actually prawn cocktail. And we did have a prawn cocktail. We did have a prawn cocktail flavor, but we actually discontinued it last year.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Like, I remember like Walker's did like a Marmite flavor once, and I like Marmite. I remember it's very controversial.
Yeah. No, I mean Walker's. Obviously, they're constantly introducing like limited edition flavors, and I think the reason they're limited edition is because people will try new flavors, at least once. But I think most people will always go back to their old favorites.
Yeah. No, that's it. Do you have any favorite books at all that you read, that you recommend? You're into like
favorite what books? There is, I try and read as much as possible. I tend not to read books anymore. I read articles, but there is one book that I have read that is really illuminating, especially for anyone who's trying to start a food and drink brand. But I actually can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's that good. But I will I will let you know after the call, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I've got it at home.
Yeah, of course. I'll put it in the description. But but no, it's I know we said like half an hour. I know, and you're okay for time and stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you've got some more questions. Yeah.
But like, where do you do you see yourself branching out into like other areas, not just kind of crisps, or is that kind of?
Well, so far we've got pork snacks. We've got crisps and popcorn. We've looked at other stuff, and we're constantly looking at NPD. We have got something new coming out actually soon, which is like an air dried Spanish ham that's basically been turned into a crisp. So that's quite exciting. We've also looked at nuts and things, but there is a danger of spreading yourselves too thin, and we've certainly been guilty of that in the past, trying to do too much, and then you lose focus on the things that you do well. So I like to try and view NPD as sort of a conveyor belt, and what you've got's got to be far enough down the conveyor belt before you can start putting new stuff on. So that's definitely something that we spent the past 12 months on, is trying to focus on what we're doing, and making sure that the stuff we've got is working really well, and that any NPD is well targeted, and not just because we see someone else doing something thinking, oh well, we should do that too. We've got to make sure that the NPD we develop is right for us. And I think this new piece, this air dried ham is I mean, I think it will fit well within our existing range. It's under the Awfully Posh brand, which is a pork snack brand, so it's still pork, but it's slightly different. It's new and unique. So we're looking forward to that. I'll send you some samples when they're ready.
Yeah. No, of course, I look forward to it. No, it'll be good. I think like that'll definitely take off, because I love Serrano ham. Like Serrano and Spanish ham, and
it's similar to that. It's actually called lomo, which is it's not actually a ham. It's like pork loin. Interesting. I only discovered this while we were doing development. But to call something ham, it has to come from the leg of pork. This is actually from the loin. So, but it's similar. It's similar to Serrano ham.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I used to work with Spanish people in the hotel, and they used to get it imported from like Spain, like this big chunks of ham, and they were like going crazy over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to like round up, like just one last question, like what does like success like look like for you? Like if you could like sum it up, or what is success to you? Like
I'll tell you when I'm successful.
yeah,
um,
or happiness, what's happiness? What's happiness to you?
I think happiness is having a good work life balance. I think especially when you run a business, it's very easy for your work life to just completely take over, and that can obviously affect that feeds into your personal life. But I was being flippant about my comment about success, but in terms of what success would look like to me, I think it would I think I'm probably a good 10 years away from feeling like I'm a success, because we've come a long way, and I was reflecting on how far we'd come the other day, but I think we've still got a long way to go. You know it's it's been a long journey, but I'm not even still in the early days of it. I'm still relatively young, and hopefully going to stay in this industry for a long time. So I think there's a lot more to come, and but I think what's important, and it hasn't universally been the case, but it's certainly been the case over the past few years, is that I really do enjoy what I'm doing. Because in the early days, they were fun, but I look back now and think, was it truly enjoyable, or did I enjoy it? And there were some really tough periods, and we're starting to get to a phase now where we're getting enough traction that every day I really do look forward to getting out of bed and doing my job, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. I really like what you said about that, and I think like getting out of bed and enjoying what you're going to to work, and what you're going to do. Because I mean,
Yeah.
we spend a lot. We spend most of our lives working. So I mean, if you can enjoy something in the process, I mean that's only a benefit to your life and your health and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, because running a business is tough. It's super tough, and if you don't enjoy it, I'd argue, what's the point? You might as well just get a job where you can sort of leave, because running a business, you can't really leave your work at leave your work at the door. You're constantly working. And I try and strike a balance, but if I didn't enjoy what I did, I'd think, well, what's the point? I might as well just get a job where I can leave work at the door.
Yeah. No, I agree. I completely agree with you. But no, like Tom, I respect your time, and I know
It's a pleasure.
half an hour you're busy, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you coming on, and
yeah, it's been a pleasure. I do like doing things like this. It's I get a lot out of it as well, because it sort of helps me to reflect and and assess. So no, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
No, you're very welcome, and I think it's great work what you're doing, and I look forward to the new things to come, and I look forward to trying your brand and your crisps, and I wish you all the best in your company, and I'll put it out there as well on my side of things, and promote it that bit for you.
Great. Cheers, Adam.
No, you're welcome, Tom.
Thanks.
But no, all the best. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Take care.